What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. I know when I did the What to Expect from Blerd Without Fear in 2019 video, I talked about how I was going to start doing stuff involving indie comics. So that means Image Comics, Boom Studios, IDW, Aftershock, various and sundry other imprints. But I want to make something real clear when I said that. That's not a open the floodgates for all indie comics. I mean, I will check out an indie comic. If I really like it, I'll talk about it on the channel. However, I'm not just going to read any and every old indie comic because I have very particular tastes. I like very particular things. And if I don't like something, and I'm just going to let you know right now, I'm not going to have anything favorable to say about it. Everyone who was butthurt over the Superman video I did for, Lois and Clark and the final days of Superman, just go back in my video history and look at that video and read the comments of all the people who were butthurt over the fact that I didn't enjoy that book. I am going to spend some time talking about a book that came up a few times during the Powers Not Included Top 5 Comics of 2018 podcast we did in the video that I put on the channel that you can also watch. It's probably floating in the cards somewhere right about now. And that's a book called Kill or Be Killed by Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, and Elizabeth Brightweiser. And before I read this book, people were trying to get me on the bandwagon left and right. Everybody kept talking about, oh man, you need to read this book. Oh, if you're a fan of Death Note, oh man, it's just like Death Note. It's like Death Note, but like American, and just, it's just fantastic. And everybody kept saying the same stuff. That being said, in this video, I'm gonna do a little review / breakdown of Kill or Be Killed Volume 1, and that being said, I hope you would understand that means spoilers, duh. But before we get started, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click, click. But anyways, this is a book about probably one of the most relatable characters I think I have seen in recent memory. This is about a character by the name of Dylan, who is about roughly 28 years old, I want to say. A grad student who is just getting by. He's kind of got a rough life. He's been dealing with depression. He's struggled with school. He's struggled with relationships. He wants to be a better guy than what he really is. He wants to be that tough guy that women just gravitate towards, but he just ain't that guy. He's kind of a scrub. But that being said, he is still a relatable character because he is a normal person just like anybody else. We talk about his social life, his relationships, he's also struggling with one that's in his own home. You see, he's roomed up with one of his friends from college, Mason, who happens to be dating a girl who he is super duper into, named Kira. And this is one of those situations that really drew me to the book because I kind of felt like, man, I've been in that situation before where, a really close friend of mine starts dating a girl that I'm really into. They know I'm into that girl and they date her anyway. And whether they realize it or not, they rub it in my face. And I thought it was really cool that, he's dealing with this and he is not dealing with it well to the point that it pushes him over the edge suicide. But he doesn't succeed. In fact, he kind of comically doesn't die. He ends up surviving and he makes it home only to find himself in a situation not too dissimilar from what Light Yagami found himself in Death Note. And this is kind of where I think people kind of go overboard with the Death Note comparisons because honestly, about right here is kind of where they begin and not too long after that, they end. He comes home to find this demon in his bedroom. This black, shadowy, horned demon with these sharp teeth and crazy eyes. And the demon cuts him a deal. He says, hey, you tried to kill yourself, but I gave you your life back. And you know what? I'm going to need a death for a life. So what he wants Dylan to do is he wants him to kill a bad person, an evil person, once a month, just so he can stay alive. A death for a life. I mean, hey, there you go. Kill or be killed. Roll credits. And it seems like such a small thing, but Dylan is a human being. He doesn't want to kill anybody. But here's the trick. He doesn't have much choice in the matter because as he's obsessing over whether or not he actually saw what he thought he saw, because, hey, not every day you see a demon just in your bedroom. But now he has to try and decide whether or not he's actually as crazy as he thinks he is. Should he take his medication? Should he get off his medication? Should he talk to his doctor? Should he tell anyone? Should he phone a friend? And at the end of it all, he ultimately decides to do nothing. But it's here where he realizes he chose poorly. He starts feeling deathly ill, like food poisoning dialed up to 11. And before you know it, he starts feeling the pangs of death. Just in time to where he actually does decide maybe he should kill somebody to relieve this pain. And then he realizes right here at a moment where he does actually attempt to do this and almost gets killed himself. He does, in fact, have the will to live. Now, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit because, talking about some of these things, it's real easy to forget that, Dylan, he is probably one of the most relatable characters I've read in recent memory. His problems, the things that he has going on in his life, all these things that are hanging over him in the balance, kind of reminds me of maybe not necessarily myself, but people I actually know. This guy who's kind of a schlub, but he's still not a bad person. He's just this guy who just doesn't have his shit together. And he's trying to be the best version of himself, but life has been kicking him so much that he just can't get ahead. While he's trying to figure it all out, he winds up skipping back across the bridge to his mom's home, and when he's there, that's when things start to finally click. Not only does he, dig up some old artwork that his dad used to do back in the day, because his dad was this really phenomenal artist who just never really made it anywhere with his art, but he did, kind of do this, what can only be described as heavy metal magazine style pornography to kind of make ends meet. It's still this amazing artwork that Dylan kind of forgot about, and he starts, rummaging through it, and he ends up keeping some of it. While he's doing that, he's going down memory lane, remembering a kid who he used to look at this borderline pornographic artwork with, and this is when he realizes, wait a minute, what about that kid I used to be friends with back in, elementary school, going on up? That same kid who was kind of weird, who seemed to have this, this dark secret that he wasn't necessarily telling anybody about his older brother, and how this very same kid, as they got older, started getting into problems with drugs and, just going down a dark path, and ultimately winded up killing himself. Through some digging, he realizes, wait a minute, this kid was screaming the warning signs of sexual assault and abuse by his older brother. So he ends up digging up dirt on his best friend's older brother and goes back and finds him. And this is when he starts to find his resolve and realizes that, yes, I can do this. If I have to kill an evil son of a bitch once a month, I can do that, as long as they are literally just the worst. And honestly, I think just about anybody would probably feel that way. I know I would. If it came down to me, or you, and you're an evil motherfucker, my life or yours, the whole thing really starts to ramp up at this point, because once he kills his, his best friend's, older brother, this is when he starts, kind of starting to get into the role of being this vigilante. And it's actually really awesome, because when we start this story off, Dylan is already a badass. He's pretty much the Punisher. But that's stuff that happens way down the road. This story is mostly told through flashbacks. Well, I'm not the hugest fan of flashbacks, but I actually think that they use them very effectively here. Look at, how he is there, and then you see this guy, he's kind of weak-willed, he's not really that good of a shooter. So yeah, he has to get good, noob, or, get out the game. And I really appreciate how they do this. They actually show you, how he's leveling himself up. He's, trying to make himself better. He's, going to the shooting range to make himself a better shot. He's actually trying to go to, take self-defense classes to make himself a better fighter. He is starting to get so big that he's going after the Russian mafia. But this is where he gets too big for his britches, and it kind of winds up biting him in the ass, because he ends up almost getting himself killed and even attacked by one of the strippers that he felt like he was trying to do a favor for. And when this happens, he gets himself beat so badly that when he makes it back home, to where it just so happens that Kira and Mason are there to see him, they start to wonder what the hell is going on with him. And Kira is especially worried, because we have to look at the fact that, yes, they have this weird relationship, Dylan and Kira, but little tidbit, I kind of left this out because I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, but we do see portions of the book where when Mason's not around, her and Dylan are really having this really awesome relationship, and it's almost like they're dating. So she is especially worried, because she doesn't know whether her back and forth between Dylan and Mason is doing this to him. What is going on with him? Why is he coming home looking like he just went 20 rounds with Mike Tyson in his prime? And what makes this really interesting is the fact that he has to make a decision. Does he tell them the truth, which he does want to do? He wants to get this demon business off his chest. But at the same time, he doesn't want to, because he knows what will happen. They'll think he's crazy. They'll want to commit him. Knowing his history already, they're already kind of getting in their head that something's wrong with him and that he needs to be fixed. So it makes for an interesting turn when he admits that, yeah, I've been intentionally starting fights and getting my ass kicked. Because the lie sounds way more plausible than the actual truth. So yeah, Dylan is just this really super duper relatable guy because yes, he has no superpowers, but yes, he has made a deal with the devil. But at the same time, I kind of almost look at him as like a Peter Parker style character with a much worse life and just no supervillains, you know, other than, you know, a best friend who's banging your #1 crush. Which, I mean, that's about as Spider-Man as you can get without having superpowers. One of the other things I really like about Dylan as a character, because he does kind of remind me of me in some ways. I don't talk about my politics here on this channel very often because I just kind of feel like being a decent human being and being political are two completely different things. But I like the fact that Dylan is kind of forward thinking. He's a guy that recognizes injustice, whether it be injustices towards himself or people who don't look like him. And he also recognizes that politicians, whether they're left or right, are corrupt. What I do like about him as a character is that yes, he's a decent human being. He recognizes when things are wrong. He doesn't want to be an awful person. He sees the worst in humanity, and he also can see the good in humanity, even if it's not doing him any favors. But yes, seeing him evolve from this weak-willed character and kind of slowly watching him build up, because we don't get to see the whole thing. We actually, in the flashbacks where we start at the beginning, we don't really get to see the outcome of that until maybe like Volume 2, Volume 3, really. But even then, I love the journey that Ed Brubaker is taking us on, because he is showing us the day-to-day life of a vigilante and how it ain't that easy. But anyways, getting back to Kira, because that actually kind of plays a little bit into this. And of course, because of the whole incident, you know, Kira is trying to look after Dylan because she's worried about him now because, you know, he came home looking like Rocky Dennis in Mask. Yes, now she is trying to figure out what's going on with him and trying to get closer to him. And while she is, she finds his dad's artwork and is kind of talking to him about it. But it's here at this moment that things take a very interesting turn when we discover that the demon that he's been seeing is in the artwork of his dad. So it starts begging all these different questions. Was this something from his childhood that he just chose to ignore? And he's only just now starting to see him now, like a latent memory just kind of coming back out of nowhere? Or is the demon messing with him and just showing up in random places, you know, just to, you know, constantly remind him of their deal? Is Dylan crazy? Did he actually make a deal with the devil? I think this is a question you're going to be asking yourself throughout all 4 volumes of Kill or Be Killed. And I think that's just great storytelling. Ed Brubaker is seriously sitting here making you try to decide whether or not you're on Dylan's side or not, which is something where when people talk about, you know, going back to the comparisons between Kill or Be Killed and Death Note, that's something I couldn't say about Death Note. Because with Death Note, I was just kind of like, Light Yagami's a piece of shit. He has no redeeming qualities. I mean, yeah, he likes killing criminals, but he's also a criminal himself, and he's also a manipulative piece of shit. Not only that, I just don't subscribe to the whole idea of thinking that villains are good people because, you know, they happen to be sympathetic or their, you know, their villainy comes from a place of kind-heartedness. I just don't believe in that. That's a fucking sociopath. So yeah, when people come to me talking about, oh, Killmonger was right or Thanos did nothing wrong, I'm just kind of like, eh. But anyways, I do really enjoy Kill or Be Killed. I think it's a fantastic book, and I had to if I put it in my top 5 of 2018. And not only that, if I burn through a book that fast. I started Kill or Be Killed with issue #1 and was immediately well into volume 3 in no time. So I mean, and then I just recently finished it. I mean, and that's something that I read in the course of a week. I actually burned through it so fast. I actually had to put the book down so I didn't burn through it so quickly. I had to force myself to read other things just so I could savor how good the storytelling was here. But anyways, let me know what you thought about Kill or Be Killed by Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, and Elizabeth Breitweiser. Sound off in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers and tap that bell so you know when I post up. And if you want to become one of Earth's mightiest patrons as well, swing on over by patreon.com/blerdwithoutfear. And if you chuck in a buck, you can get some exclusive content. And if you don't want to become one of Earth's mightiest patrons, that's fine too. Hey, all I ask is that you like this video and share it with your friends. And who knows, maybe they'll become some of Earth's mightiest subscribers too. Anyways, thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and while you're here, go ahead and check out some of these other videos I got floating around here. But until next time, Plus Ultra!